A lot of 49er fans want to know, where is it right now with the contract negotiations with Brock Purdy? As we have seen, it's been an interesting offseason for the 49ers. We've heard from John Lynch now multiple times, and it really does feel like the financial restrictions that Kyle Juszczyk had mentioned are real. So, how does that correlate to Brock Purdy? And it's interesting to hear NFL insider Mike Garafolo kind of talk about this from an interesting perspective, almost from the perspective of Brock Purdy. So let's take a listen to what he has to say, because he's still angling, or at least what Garafolo was saying, is that it still sounds like Brock Purdy and his camp are angling for a number that is pretty close to Dak Prescott. Take a listen to what he had to say, and let's talk about it on the other side.
I just remembered the photo that I have up here on my backdrop is actually me and MJD interviewing Deebo Samuel the day that he got to Santa Clara after signing his contract after a brief training camp holdout. That's how quickly things can change. That same day, Trey Lance was struggling in practice. He was bouncing a few easy throws, and there was a rookie quarterback named Brock Purdy that no one was really talking about at that point. Lo and behold, injuries hit, circumstances change, Purdy gets his opportunity, and now here we are talking about, as you said, Mike, a quarterback who quite possibly is going to be that next one who sets the market. Now, we know the 49ers have a history here of taking their time doing some deals. They also had a lot to clean up in advance of getting a Purdy contract done because of the difference between the last pick in the draft and a guy who's going to be getting paid $50 million plus. John Lynch, speaking at Stanford Pro Day, saying in part this week, the bottom line is you're always looking at years out from now, and we forecast it. We got some big things coming our way, and you have to clear the requisite room to be able to do that. And you don't want to get to a point where you have to do things to keep your roster afloat. You want to leave that flexibility. Another way to read that quote, Mike, would be, we did not give ourselves a lot of flexibility. We pushed it to the max for years, trading draft picks for veteran players and paying guys like Christian McCaffrey. Now here you are, and it's not a total reboot, but it's definitely a reset of sorts for the 49ers.
Well, and John Lynch knows what's coming, and it's that Brock Purdy deal that at some point is going to happen this offseason. And I know he was the last pick in the draft. You may have heard about it. I know that it's a system that people think, oh, you just plug a quarterback in and he runs the system. It's more that, oh, really? Because they tried to do that with a couple of guys, and it didn't work as well as it has with Brock Purdy. So Purdy is going to look at this and say, I need to be paid like one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Now, if you go back over the last 5 years or so and you see the quarterback deals that were done, the average per year is usually like anywhere from 21-ish to 25% of the salary cap. If it's on the low end of that, he's going to clear guys like Trevor Lawrence. Now, he's not going to get to Dak Prescott's number of 60, but he'll be in the high 50s. If he really wanted to push it to Joe Burrow, who took the biggest chunk of the salary cap, that's like $68 million per year. I don't get the sense that Brock Purdy wants to go there because that's going to hurt the team's ability to do other things like we were just talking about. But he wants his respect, and he wants money that's in line with those other quarterbacks. So I don't see this getting done until the 49ers and Brock Purdy agree on a number that's close to Dak Prescott. Not all the way there, but close to Dak Prescott. Purdy saying that's fair, but it also still gives the team and John Lynch the opportunity to do things elsewhere on the roster.
Well, and to position themselves to be able to do that Brock Purdy deal whenever it gets done, they had a lot to clean up, right? I mean, they had to clean up the salary cap. They have been one of the highest spending teams over the last few years in cash spending. They kept going for it, right? They kept keeping it together and pushing, trying to win that Super Bowl. They fell short. It never all came together. And you knew the reset was coming at some point. It has to come now. It has been dramatic, certainly lots of big names. But this is what happens. John Lynch didn't say it, but they had to get younger. He said that part. They also had to get cheaper, frankly, because they do have big things coming in terms of the Brock Purdy contract. This is what happens in the NFL. You can only push it for so long. You can only keep your foot on the gas for so long. You can only keep a veteran-laden, very expensive team together for so long, especially when you've got that quarterback on the rookie contract. When that quarterback has to get paid again, something's got to give, and it is giving this offseason.
And I think it also bears mentioning here because sometimes there's this bias against the 7th-round pick, the guy who doesn't have the physical tools, the other high-paid guys. I see people say all the time, how are you going to pay Brock Purdy that much? Even did a down year, a quote-unquote down year for him last year where he doesn't have Christian McCaffrey. He's got Brandon Ayuk gets hurt. Debo was banged up through the course of the season. There was all kind of moving parts for the team. If you look at the efficiency numbers, he's still like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And when Kyle Shanahan puts his stamp on somebody saying, I want that guy to be my quarterback as long as I'm here, that should go a long way to telling you why the 49ers want to get this deal done.
So, it's interesting, I would say, to hear Mike Garafolo come out, give this opinion. It feels pretty. How do I say? If there's anything I've learned about covering the NFL, especially during contract extension time, is that, whether it's the team or the agent or what have you, they tend to use the insiders, to get a certain message out. Not saying that's what's happening here, but I do find the perspective in which Garofalo is coming from pretty interesting because he's basically saying his sense is that Brock Purdy, his agent, want to get close to a Dak Prescott number. Don't want to get there because, as he said, he wants to get paid in line with what the other quarterbacks that he believes he's ranked with, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Jalen Hurts. I mean, those guys are actually at the lower end, but, going up back to the Jordan Loves and, 55 or higher range. He basically said, like, well, we don't want to go beyond Dak because I think the Cowboys just honestly gave a terrible contract to Dak Prescott. And I think the whole league knows that because you look at what what's his name? What's his name? The quarterback for the Bills, Josh Allen. What's that guy's name? Oh, only one of the best quarterbacks in the league, who's getting $55 million per year on average, which, again, we talk about these things that way. But with Josh Allen, he got the most guaranteed money out of any quarterback or out of any player in NFL history. So even more than Dak Prescott. I think it was $220 million guaranteed cash flow that was going to be going through to Josh Allen, which was a new record, beating out Dak by $1 million. So we hear all the time, I talk about the APY. The APY can be inflated. Like, you really can manipulate that number. What I think is the most interesting is like the length of the deal and the guarantees. Like, what is the guaranteed money looking like? Is it 160 plus? Is it 175 plus $1 million guaranteed over 3-4 years? What does that look like? And I think those are the things that really matter. I find it interesting that, especially since Josh Allen's deal came out and the conversation kind of shifted a little bit to, there was an idea that, Brock was going to get between 55 to 60. And then, Josh gets that 55 number on the APY. And you hear him talking about, oh, what's $5 million more? I wanted to make sure that, we could still be competitive, and what's $5 million more for me? I'm set. So that was the kind of way that he described it, basically saying he could have gotten more, but he decided not to. So I think that kind of changed the narrative a little bit on the Purdy conversation, kind of back down below 55, because that's just kind of how it works. Like the next quarterback sets the bar. And so the fact that Josh Allen only hit 55, it's like, ooh, and I think that's how people are going to talk about it. But again, Josh Allen still broke records with guaranteed money. So that's where it really matters. So again, less concerned about the APY and where that ultimately ranks, because you can throw dummy years onto the back of that deal. You can make it inflated and you can bring that APY up. But honestly, what really matters is the guaranteed dollars and what's that going to look like. So we'll see what that does ultimately look like in the end. I just found the way he was talking about it to be interesting. because it did feel like it was more than just an opinion, even though it was kind of prefaced as opinion, if that makes sense. But that's just me, reading between the lines. You guys let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.